What methods do you have for coping with anxiety? Journaling is therapy. One method that has significantly helped me cope with anxiety is journaling. It's like having a 24/7 therapist who doesn't charge a dime. I can pour out all my thoughts and feelings, getting them out of my head and onto paper. It makes my problems feel more manageable, almost as if I'm transferring the weight from my mind to the page. I don't have to worry about anyone judging me, and it's a great way to process emotions. Plus, the act of physically writing something down has its own therapeutic benefits. It slows me down and helps me gain a clearer perspective on whatever's bothering me. Struggling with journaling. I've always found journaling tough because I'm self-conscious about immortalizing my thoughts. There's something intimidating about writing down my deepest feelings. But I've heard from so many people that it helps, so I think I'll give it another try. It's about being vulnerable and allowing yourself the space to express what's really going on internally. Maybe the act of writing will help me confront those feelings that I'd rather avoid or pretend don't exist. Reflections over time. One thing that stops me from journaling is revisiting my entries later. I feel embarrassed reading back over what I wrote and realizing how irrational or intense my emotions were at the time. It's like seeing my raw, unfiltered thoughts, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. But maybe that discomfort is part of the growth. I've been told that it helps to see how far you've come or to recognize patterns in your emotions, which can ultimately help you cope better in the future. Burning the pages. A great way to release pent-up anxiety is through journaling, but I take it one step further. I burn the pages afterward. It's like a ceremonial release of all those heavy thoughts. There's something deeply satisfying about watching those words, which once seemed so overwhelming, turn to ash. It's like telling my brain, okay, we've processed this, now we can let it go. I don't have to worry about anyone reading my deepest secrets, and I don't have to carry the weight of those feelings anymore. 2 types of journals. I keep 2 journals, one for posterity and one for purging. The first is a future grandchildren journal that I'll reread someday, where I reflect on my life in a more thoughtful way. The second one is A to Be Burned journal, where I pour out all my frustrations, fears, and anxieties. It's the one where I don't hold back because I know that eventually I'll either burn it or tear it up. This process has helped me keep perspective and lighten the emotional load. Journaling through digital means. For me, journaling digitally has made all the difference. I used to keep a physical journal, but now I use the Notes app on my phone or laptop. I lock the notes so no one can access them, and it gives me a sense of security. I type out everything that's weighing on me. No grammar checks, no filters, just raw thoughts. Sometimes I delete the entries afterward, but the act of writing them down still gives me the relief I need. Taking thoughts to court. One strategy I use when anxiety spirals out of control is to take the thought to court. For example, if I'm convinced everyone hates me, I'll write down the evidence supporting that thought and the evidence against it. On one side, I might say, I sometimes say stupid things, but on the other side, I'll counter with, they've never said they hate me, and they invite me to events. By looking at it logically, I can dismantle the irrational thoughts that anxiety loves to amplify. Exercise is therapy. Exercise has been one of the best ways for me to cope with anxiety. People assume I love going to the gym, but honestly, I don't. I go because I need to. It's my way of managing the chaos in my mind. When I work out, the endorphins kick in, and it helps me feel more balanced. It's not just about staying fit, it's about staying sane. The mental clarity I get from a workout session is worth every drop of sweat. Running from anxiety. Running has been a lifesaver for my anxiety. It's the only time when my mind stops racing because I'm too focused on my breathing and the movement of my body. There's something about physically moving through space that helps me process the anxious energy. It's not about running fast or far, it's about the release. Every step feels like I'm running away from the worries that keep me up at night. Hey everyone! Have you ever tried journaling or exercise to help with anxiety? It's amazing how these simple acts can make such a huge difference. I'd love to hear your experiences. What methods have helped you cope with stress? Drop a comment below, and let's support each other in finding new ways to manage anxiety. If you're enjoying these discussions about self-care, mental health, and personal growth, don't forget to subscribe. We're all in this together, and your journey matters. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story or tip that could help you along the way. The treadmill trick. I bought a cheap treadmill, and it has changed my life. Now, when I'm feeling anxious, I hop on the treadmill while watching a show or listening to music. It keeps me occupied and moving, which is a big deal when my brain is all over the place. Since I've started doing this, I've noticed that I sleep better and snack less, which also helps with my anxiety. It's like killing two birds with one stone, managing stress and staying healthy. Grounding techniques. When anxiety hits, I use grounding techniques to pull myself back into the present. I take deep breaths and focus on something tangible, like how my feet feel on the floor, or how the air feels when I inhale. Focusing on my breathing reminds me that in this moment, nothing is wrong. This simple act helps me regain control and calm down enough to assess whatever is causing my anxiety. It's about taking things one breath at a time, reframing what-ifs. One of the best pieces of advice I've received is to reframe anxious thoughts. Instead of asking, "What if this terrible thing happens?" I switch it to, "Even if this happens, I'll be okay." It reminds me that I'm capable of handling whatever comes my way, even if it's something I'm dreading. This simple shift in language takes away some of the power that anxiety has over me. I might not be able to control the outcome, but I can control how I react to it. Imaginary support. One coping mechanism I use for my social anxiety is imagining that I'm with someone even more anxious than I am. It's like I'm taking care of them, which forces me to push my own anxiety aside. For instance, I'll imagine I'm with a fictional character, like Eleven from Stranger Things, and it helps me focus on keeping them calm. It sounds a little silly, but it works. It gives me a sense of responsibility, which distracts me from my own fear. Supporting myself from the past. Sometimes, when I'm overwhelmed with anxiety, I imagine I'm comforting a younger version of myself. I talk to that younger self the way I wish someone had talked to me back then, with patience, kindness, and reassurance. It's a form of self-compassion that helps me process my feelings. By focusing on past me, I give myself the space to heal and let go of the judgments I have about my current feelings. Worst-case scenario. When anxiety strikes, I often ask myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? It sounds counterintuitive, but imagining the worst-case scenario helps me prepare for it. Once I realize that I could survive even the most catastrophic outcomes, the situation feels less terrifying. It's not about expecting the worst. It's about acknowledging that even if the worst happens, there's always a way forward. A supportive mantra. One mantra I repeat when anxiety starts to take over is, "I've done more with less." It reminds me that I've faced tough situations before, and I got through them. Another thing that helps is visualizing positive outcomes. When I picture things going well, it calms me down and shifts my focus away from fear. It's a small mental exercise, but it has a big impact on how I manage stressful situations. The bucket analogy. I've adopted the bucket analogy to track how I'm feeling over time. When my bucket is full, I feel good, fulfilled, and happy. When it's empty, I feel drained, anxious, and stressed. Life's challenges poke holes in the bucket, draining it little by little. But by doing things that replenish my emotional energy, like hobbies, exercise, or spending time with loved ones, I can slowly refill it. It's a reminder that self-care isn't an overnight fix. It's a gradual process that helps you build resilience over time. Visualizing the path forward. Anxiety often stems from feeling out of control, so when I feel overwhelmed, I try to create a mental plan for the worst-case scenario. What would I do if my biggest fear came true? Once I have a plan, the fear loses its power over me. It might not be easy to go through, but knowing there's a way out makes me feel more in control. This approach has helped me stay grounded, even in situations where I feel uncertain or afraid. Creating distance from thoughts. One technique that's helped me is learning to separate myself from my thoughts. When anxiety is running high, I remind myself that my thoughts aren't reality. They're just interpretations. By distancing myself from the overwhelming flood of worries, I can look at them more objectively. It helps me think clearly, process what's happening, and decide what's worth worrying about and what's just noise. Finding strength in connection. During times of high anxiety, connecting with others has been crucial. Whether it's reaching out to a trusted friend or even posting in an online community, sharing what I'm going through helps me feel less alone. Anxiety tends to isolate you, but when you let others in, it becomes easier to bear. I've learned that vulnerability can be a source of strength. It reminds you that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your own. Unproductive habits and coping through running. When anxiety hits, I often find myself being completely unproductive at work, which only adds to my stress. To make matters worse, I turn to unhealthy habits, drinking too much, doom scrolling Reddit and Instagram, and neglecting important tasks like cooking or taking my dogs for a walk. It's a vicious cycle. Stress eating until I'm overly full, staying up too late to avoid the next day, and even giving up hobbies because they feel too overwhelming are all part of the spiral. But one small victory I've had is taking up running. It helps burn off some of that anxious energy, and for that, I'm grateful. Understanding the long-term effects. While these habits may seem like a temporary fix, I've realized that drinking only makes my anxiety worse in the long run. It might feel like it's numbing the stress in the moment, but it's actually messing with my brain chemistry and making it harder to cope with anxiety over time. Learning to recognize this has been a huge wake-up call, and it's made me more conscious of finding healthier outlets for my stress. The power of thought control. One method I've found incredibly helpful in the moment is reminding myself that I am not my thoughts. This simple idea, that a thought is just a thought and doesn't define who I am, has changed the way I cope with anxiety. I imagine my thoughts like little boxes on a conveyor belt. When an anxious thought comes along, I mentally close the box, set it back on the belt, and watch it move away. It's surprising how much control this small act gives me over my anxiety spikes. I can choose which thoughts to engage with and which ones to let pass by. Breathing techniques for immediate relief. When anxiety feels overwhelming, one of the quickest ways to calm myself down is through a simple breathing technique. I breathe in through my nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold my breath for another 4 seconds before repeating the cycle. This method, known as box breathing, helps regulate my nervous system and brings my focus back to the present. It's especially useful when I feel like my mind is spinning out of control. Grounding techniques. Grounding is another technique I turn to when my thoughts start spiraling. I'll pick 5 things I can see, 5 things I can hear, and 5 things I can touch to help bring myself back to reality. Focusing on the physical world around me forces my brain to slow down and process sensory information instead of the overwhelming, anxious thoughts. Sometimes I'll even grab a warm drink and pay attention to the texture of the cup, the smell of the tea, and the warmth in my hands. This mindful exercise helps me regain control over my thoughts and feelings. Cognitive restructuring. When my anxiety convinces me that everyone hates me or that I'm a failure, I use cognitive restructuring to challenge those thoughts. I ask myself, what evidence do I have that this is true? What evidence do I have that it's not true? This logical process helps me separate irrational thoughts from reality. It's not always easy, but it forces me to look at my anxieties more objectively and see that they're not as all-encompassing as they feel. Meditation, showers, and self-care. I've also found that simple acts of self-care, like taking a hot shower or drinking tea, can make a big difference in how I manage my anxiety. Meditation doesn't always work for me, especially when I'm in the throes of panic, but I find that a hot shower helps relax my body and mind. Combining physical comfort with mental exercises like deep breathing or positive affirmations helps create a calming environment where I can process my anxiety in a healthier way. The power of exercise and healthy routines. Exercise is one of the few things that consistently helps me manage anxiety. Whether it's a quick run or a gym session, the endorphin rush I get afterward helps balance my mood and clears my mind. Plus, it gives me a sense of accomplishment, which is a powerful tool in combating feelings of helplessness or anxiety. Having a routine, like regular gym time, or even a hobby like playing music, has been crucial in helping me stay grounded. The "it is what it is" mindset. Adopting an "it is what it is" mindset has been a game changer for me. I've realized that stressing over things doesn't change the outcome, and sometimes the best way to cope is to accept the situation and focus on what's within my control. This approach has helped me let go of the things I can't change and find peace in the present moment. It's not about giving up, but rather about recognizing that worrying doesn't serve me in the long run. Using anxiety as a resource. One of the more unusual ways I cope with anxiety is by turning it into a resource. When I'm feeling anxious, my mind races, and sometimes that heightened state of alertness helps me solve problems I've been stuck on for weeks. I write down ideas that come to me in these moments, and later, I can reflect on them with a clearer mind. It's a way of using the anxiety productively, rather than letting it consume me entirely. Small steps toward progress. When anxiety tells me that I've messed up at work or that I'm not good enough, I try to take small steps to combat those feelings. For example, if I'm worried about my performance at work, I'll take a short online course to improve my skills. It may not solve the problem immediately, but it gives me something concrete to focus on and helps me feel more prepared for whatever comes next. This proactive approach helps me regain a sense of control over my life, one small step at a time. Distraction and relaxation techniques. Distraction is another key tool in managing anxiety. Whether it's listening to calming music, doing puzzles, or even coloring in a book, I find that engaging my mind in a different activity helps break the cycle of anxious thoughts. It's not about avoiding the anxiety altogether, but rather giving my brain a chance to reset before tackling the issue again. These moments of peace are vital for maintaining my mental health, especially during high-stress times. Finding comfort in connection. Lastly, one of the most important things I've learned is the value of connection. Talking to friends, family, or even strangers online who are going through similar experiences has been incredibly comforting. It reminds me that I'm not alone in this, and sometimes just saying my fears out loud takes away their power. Sharing my story and hearing others has helped me build a support network that I can lean on when anxiety feels overwhelming. These methods, while varied, have helped me better manage my anxiety. Each one plays a role in keeping me grounded, present, and able to face life's challenges head-on. It's a constant journey, but every day I find new ways to cope, grow, and move forward. Peeing as relaxation. It might sound odd, but peeing can be surprisingly relaxing. There's something about the simple act that momentarily removes all other distractions, giving you a moment of peace and physical relief. However, as funny as it is to think of this as a coping method, it could potentially mean a lot of bathroom breaks. The role of Xanax. For those who deal with severe anxiety, medications like Xanax are often a go-to. While it's not a long-term solution, many find it invaluable for reducing immediate, overwhelming anxiety. However, relying too heavily on Xanax without addressing the root causes of anxiety through therapy or lifestyle changes can sometimes create additional challenges. The effectiveness of grounding. Many people who suffer from anxiety use grounding exercises to bring themselves back to the present moment. For example, a common method involves picking 5 things you can see, 5 things you can touch, 5 things you can hear, etc. It may sound simple, but it's effective in shifting your focus away from the overwhelming thoughts and back into your immediate environment. Yoga and napping. Yoga can be an amazing way to manage anxiety. It combines gentle movement with deep breathing, helping to calm the nervous system. And if that doesn't work, sometimes a simple 25-minute nap is enough to reset both the mind and body. It's surprising how much a short break can do to alleviate anxious feelings and help you get back on track. Meditation and running. While intense exercise like running is a powerful tool for burning off anxious energy, some people prefer the quieter option of meditation. Sitting in stillness, focusing on your breath, and learning to observe your thoughts can be incredibly effective for long-term anxiety management. Even just a few minutes a day can make a noticeable difference over time. Xanax and alcohol. Some turn to Xanax or alcohol as a way to cope with anxiety. While these methods may offer short-term relief, they often come with their own sets of problems. Over-reliance on either can lead to more severe issues down the road. It's important to explore healthier coping mechanisms, though it's understandable why someone would reach for these when feeling desperate. Journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help externalize them, making them feel more manageable. For some, journaling is a safe space to express what they might not be able to say out loud. However, there's no pressure to keep the pages. Many find it therapeutic to burn or rip them up after writing, symbolically letting go of the thoughts that weigh them down. Breathing exercises. Simple breathing techniques can have a profound impact on anxiety. A popular method is box breathing, where you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. It slows the heart rate and calms the mind. Others modify this technique by extending the exhale, which encourages the body to relax even more. Vitamin B12. Believe it or not, a deficiency in certain vitamins, like B12, can exacerbate anxiety. Taking a daily B12 supplement has been a game changer for some people. It's a simple, natural way to boost your mood and energy levels, which can help you better cope with stress and anxiety. Cold showers and ice. For immediate anxiety relief, some people turn to extreme physical sensations like cold showers or holding ice. The shock to the system forces you to focus on the cold, interrupting anxious thoughts. It's not for everyone, but it's worth a try if other methods aren't working in the moment. Fidget toys. When anxiety strikes, some people find it helpful to use fidget toys. These can be anything from stress balls to more intricate devices like training balisongs. The repetitive motion helps redirect nervous energy and keeps the hands busy, offering a small but effective form of relief. Support from friends and family. One of the simplest and most effective ways to cope with anxiety is to lean on the people who care about you. Talking things out with friends or family can lighten the mental load. They might not always have solutions, but knowing that someone is listening and offering support can make a huge difference. Distraction and music. Distraction can work wonders for some forms of anxiety. Whether it's listening to music, watching TV, or getting lost in a book, focusing on something outside your anxious thoughts can help. Music, especially ambient tunes or calming rain sounds, has the added benefit of altering your mood almost instantly. Box breathing. Box breathing, sometimes called square breathing, is a simple yet highly effective technique for calming anxiety. By focusing on slow, intentional breathing patterns, you give your body a chance to downregulate the stress response, helping you feel more grounded and in control. Vitamin supplements. People often overlook the role of nutrition in managing anxiety. Deficiencies in certain vitamins, like B12, can worsen symptoms. Taking supplements has been a game changer for some, helping them feel more balanced and energized. Positive thoughts and affirmations. For those who tend to spiral into negative thinking, practicing positive affirmations can be a lifesaver. By reminding yourself that you are capable and resilient, you can shift your mindset from anxiety-driven what-if scenarios to more hopeful outcomes. Simple affirmations like, "I can handle this," or "everything will be okay," can interrupt the cycle of anxious thoughts. Medication as a last resort. For many, medication like Lexapro or Xanax is a last resort. It's not for everyone, but for those who struggle to manage their anxiety with lifestyle changes alone, medication can offer a much-needed reprieve. The key is to combine medication with therapy and other healthy coping mechanisms to address both the symptoms and the root causes of anxiety. Breaking tasks into smaller steps. Anxiety can sometimes make even the simplest tasks feel overwhelming. One helpful strategy is to break larger tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. This can give you a sense of accomplishment and reduce the feeling of being overwhelmed. Whether it's tidying up a room or working on a project, taking it one small step at a time makes everything feel less daunting. In summary, everyone deals with anxiety in their own way. Some prefer physical outlets like running or yoga, while others lean on mental exercises like grounding techniques or meditation. Whether you're using medication, journaling, or simply taking a deep breath, the most important thing is finding what works best for you. And remember, you're never alone in your struggle. There are always people and tools out there to help.